So a fairly big release wave has just been announced for Warhammer 40K. We've got plenty of Tyranids going up for individual sale, the new Kill Team box game and the first place to get Scouts and Striking Scorpions, interesting to see the price of that, and a few other interesting peripheral releases, and a distinct absence of further Leviathan Space Marines. Let's take a look at what we've got, what's going to be available at discounts with prices, and what's going direct to Games Workshop. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today in this video I thought we'd do a quick roundup of Games Workshop's Christmas releases, where they seem to have been getting a lot to go up for pre-order prior to Christmas for a release date mid-January. It seems that over the Christmas period Games Workshop are doing 3 weekly pre-order windows, so really stretching things out quite a bit more than normal. I guess while everything shuts down a bit and a lot of people aren't there over the Christmas period, the 3 weeks does maybe seem still a little bit surprising. Last week, there were only a couple of things that were kind of 40k relevant announced. The Tauros Venator for Necromunda that I'm sure a bunch of Imperial Guard players will be interested in, and a rather cool miniature for the Thousand Suns Librarian console, who'd slot in really quite nicely as a unique sorcerer sculpt if you wanted one. Otherwise though, for the stuff that they've announced this week, going live on the 23rd of December on Games Workshop's web store, these apparently won't be in stores or shipped until the 13th of January, so really getting things out quite early here. Perhaps one of the most interesting things is the final arrival of Kill Team Salvation, which is kind of surprising it's been delayed quite this long. That's the one with Striking Scorpions versus Scouts, and fighting over the drill rig type terrain. That one's definitely going to be hotly anticipated. I know that quite a lot of people have been waiting to get their hands on the new Scout sculpts, and it's really quite nice to see an Eldar aspect redone as well. Games Workshop is very slowly making their way through the range there. Otherwise, there's some drill rig type terrain for Killzone Beta Decima, a whole bunch of Tyranid kit releases, the Winged Prime Von Ryan's Leapers, the Psychophage Neurogaunts, and the Neurotyrant and Screamer Killer, which seem to be going direct only, and that sneaky Alpha Legion Saboteur that we took a look at the other day. All of those will also be going live on the 23rd of December. It looks like there's still no sign of a similar sort of Space Marine Leviathan release. I guess we'll get a similar one for the Ballistus Dreadnought, Leviathan Marine characters, and that Terminator Captain who's been missing in action since he was teased. I guess that's going to be coming sometime after Christmas now. Starting out with perhaps Games Workshop's big ticket item of the week though, this is Kill Team Salvation. It looks like for the first major release of this Kill Team sort of season type thing, Games Workshop has decided to redo their box sets a bit. Rather than packing the shiny new miniatures alongside the Killzone terrain, they've decided to split them out, so it means that the Kill Team box really is quite miniature focused and could actually represent a fairly good deal for picking the miniatures up. In this one you get 10 Scouts, 10 Striking Scorpions, plus the Kill Team manual, cards and tokens, and a few small terrain pieces, though nothing too major. The price for this one is £80 or €105, which should put it somewhere around the $130 to $135 mark US. I think considering that quite a lot of Kill Team boxes tend to be a lot more than that in the past, that's really not too bad if you just want the miniatures. I have a feeling that perhaps the majority of the sales for this might be for people who want to add the miniatures to their 40k armies. Though of course always a good opportunity to jump into Kill Team should you wish to, provided Games Workshop have actually made good stock of this, which has been very unreliable with the past Kill Team box sets. It might be a pretty handy way to get your hands on these miniatures a bit earlier. Often there's a bit of a lag time between the release of these big box sets and then the individual kits coming out in their own boxes. I certainly remember it was a bit painful when they released the Katakin in the Kill Team box and then they didn't have an individual release for ages after. That was a bit annoying for Guard players that wanted to add those to their army. My guess is, from the teaser of the miniatures, that they'll probably release the Striking Scorpions and the Scouts in just 5-man boxes, even if they do have 10-man squads here. I think it's just 2 sets of 5 without any additional Kill Team sprues or anything like that. And I suspect that overall this box will constitute a discount for the miniatures within, never mind any of the Kill Team stuff. I guess I could be wrong with that and they might just bring them out as 10-man boxes in the future, but I suspect not. If, say, the 5-man boxes did wind up being something like the Jump Pack Intercessors at £35 recently, then in theory you might be getting somewhere around a 40% discount on these, though obviously that's a bit speculative. Overall, doesn't look like the worst if you do want to pick up these miniatures. I'm sure there'll be a bit of a resale value for the other faction if you didn't want to keep them. And as mentioned, I feel like it's probably worth being prompt with this one. Some of the other Kill Team releases have been in sort of infamously short supply. So hopefully Games Workshop managed to sort their lives out a little bit better this time round. Otherwise, they also have the terrain set for this time's Kill Team. This one's Killzone Beta Decima. It seems that the idea behind their Kill Team setting is that it's on an ocean world. So this one's sort of supposed to represent a drill rig. You get a big cardboard baseboard where there's some bits of ocean, some bits of dry land interspersed, and then the plastic terrain bits themselves consist of a bunch of walkways and gantries and a great big platform thing that you could have miniatures leaping between and trying to get around the map. This set's £75, €100 or $125. I feel like for what it looks like, it maybe does look a little bit on the painful side for that amount of terrain. I feel like Games Workshop plastic terrain kits always feel like they're charged at a bit of a premium. Could be fun if you wanted to create something cool and thematic. Probably doesn't look like the most functional terrain for Warhammer 40K tables. There's not really a lot that's going to be blocking any lines of sight here, so not really as relevant for that game. Could be fine for kill team stuff though, I guess. Tyranids next, and Games Workshop announced 5 different kit releases, all different bits of the Leviathan box set that hadn't come yet. I was suspecting that they were going to re-release them at some point, though often they do have a pretty massive lag time between the big box coming out and the individual bits. First up, we've got the individual kit release for the Neurogaunts, which are £25, €32, €50 or $40. Basically just cheap auxiliary swarms that push out Synapse range and don't really do much else. They don't really do anything much for damage, and at least on an individual level they're kind of easy to kill, though given you get so many bodies for the points cost, they're actually fairly durable and will soak up at least some fire. I think in reality you don't really want to be going for too many of these guys, given that for not too much more you can have something with some okay threat to skirmish with infantry, say some termagants with spine fists. But definitely in 40k there is quite a lot of value to just having units that fill up the board and take up placeholder type spaces, and things the opponent isn't really going to want to have to prioritise at all. 11 wounds and 11 OC on the board for just 45 points really isn't too bad, I think. I can also guard the Neurotyrant, though a lot of people choose not to, just given the way that it can allow your Neurotyrant to take a lot of damage on Toughness 3 for a turn, so it could prove a bit of liability if you do get focused down by one single really high volume attack. Price-wise, I feel like this isn't too bad from Games Workshop. It is kind of rare that they ever release an infantry kit that's quite this cheap. I guess they are quite small diminutive models. Say for example the Chaos Cultist box is $50. I feel like they're perhaps midway between standard swarmy type infantry and Orc Gretchen perhaps in stature, so maybe not too surprising that they're a little bit cheaper than most. They are very simple miniatures as well without options. Otherwise, in a release that probably no one should pick up is the Psychophage. A cheap monster for some feel no pain and can do a bit of harvesting in the Assimilation Swarm. The damage output is pretty bad though, and it is a bit overcosted in game currently. Games Workshop's price for this release is £35, €45 or $60, which is fairly in line with other Games Workshop's medium monsters and vehicles, though I guess the kit is quite a simple one without options or anything. Basically at the moment it makes absolutely no sense to buy this kit in my mind. This one's £35, the 40k starter set is just literally £30 or $50 more, and that gets you an extra 37 miniatures, including really quite big ones with stature, multiple characters, Von Ryan's Leapers, Terminators, a whole bunch of Termagants and a Winged Prime and things. Given that, I feel like there's basically never any need to pick up this guy individually, and even if you did want just an individual one and didn't want to be bothering with any other miniatures, you can usually get them very cheap on eBay and things right now. For example, in the UK, you can pick one up for £9, including P&P if you just search it on eBay, so around about a quarter of the Games Workshop price there on the free market. This one I treat just as a placeholder release until the starter sets go away. Will probably be more relevant in 11th edition than now. At the moment though, if you did want to pick up a Psychophage, I'd certainly recommend second hand. It's about as cheap as any 40k monster miniature is ever going to go for. In a similar sort of vein, we've also got the Von Ryan's Leapers as well. Fairly cheapish medium infantry that forward deploy and act like mini lictors. In game I'd say they're kind of fine, maybe a little bit overshadowed by things like the Neurolictor and Death Leaper, both of which are pretty amazing lone operatives. They can be quite fun for stratagems and things in Vanguard Onslaught though. These guys are £30, €40 or $50, so fairly expected pricing here. I would have guessed somewhere around this, maybe a tiny bit cheaper if Games Workshop was feeling generous. Again, the miniatures are pretty monopose and don't come with options. Again, like the Psychophage currently, I just don't really think it makes sense to be picking up these from Games Workshop. Again, they're still half the price of the entire 40k starter box set, which again comes with over 30 other miniatures in the set. And you can pick them up second hand. The savings aren't anywhere near as big as the Psychophage ones, but still considerably cheaper than buying them through Games Workshop or even a discount retailer. Perhaps one of the most interesting releases for Tyranid collectors though might be the Horrors of the Hive set. It seems that the Neurotyrant and the Screamer Killer Carnifex are being packaged together, and these were some of the most popular miniatures out of the Leviathan box set looks-wise. They were two of the top votes when I did my aesthetics poll for that, to see which people liked the best. In-game, the Neurotyrant I think is genuinely quite good for the cost, a surprisingly cheap commander monster that buffs your shadow in the warp, and then basically acts as a flamer sort of gun turret with a good invulnerable save, and it's kind of helpful for maintaining synapse on things a little bit further away as well. The Screamer Killer's got quite a fun destructive profile and it isn't really the hardest miniature to use in-game. At his price tag though, he is just overcosted. Dies a bit too easily to anti-tank fire right now. Could certainly be a strong miniature to have at the forefront of the battle line though, if he did go down in cost a fair bit. Being packaged together for these I think could be a little bit annoying. In general, at least for game terms, Tyranid armies probably wouldn't want more than one Neurotyrant, though you could conceivably want 3 Screamer Killer Carnifexes if you wanted some raw muscle on the front lines and they got quite efficient, so having a dual set of them maybe isn't the most helpful in the world. These ones weren't released with any prices, and that usually means that it's going to be Games Workshop Direct only. I guess we'll find out the prices on the 23rd of December when they go up for pre-order there. That's not the best news though, as it means that there won't be any third-party discounts from local gaming stores and things. And I guess we'll wait to see how much Games Workshop asks for them. I might guess somewhere around the £45 or $80 mark. It could certainly be a bit more than that though. They are both pretty cool miniatures. These ones may be a bit different to the last few offerings, seeing as they aren't available in the starter sets, just in Leviathan. And if you are living somewhere where there's an okay second-hand market, particularly say the UK for eBay, again you might be more interested in picking these up second-hand perhaps for people who are selling bits of the Leviathan box they don't want. The Neurotyrant's still really quite cheap at like £11 or £12 right now. The Screamer Killer's a bit more, but still less than you might expect for a standard 40k monster miniature direct from GW. Finally for the Nids we've got the Winged Prime, who's also going to direct only. Kind of alright for leading warriors or gargoyles at his new cheaper points cost. Can be fun in Vanguard Onslaught as well. Still a bit more of a skirmish brawler rather than a mainline damage dealer though. Again, due to being direct only, his price isn't announced. I'd be kind of amazed if he was anything else other than the fairly standard Games Workshop character pricing though, usually around £25 or $40 US. Again, this is very much one of the miniatures that Games Workshop's oversold from both being in the starter box sets and in Leviathan, and generally characters from there tend to go very, very cheap indeed. I'm sure loads of Tyranid players who want one of these will have one already, and you can find one very cheap second hand if not. Finally, from the Leviathan box, that leaves us with the Space Marines. Looks like these guys will probably be teeing up for a similar sort of release wave, maybe later in January. We still need the Ballistus Dreadnought, which will probably get a similar sort of treatment. And still outstanding, there's the Apothecary Biologist, the Combi Weapon Lieutenant, and that new Terminator Captain miniature that they announced alongside the Space Marine Codex releases, but we haven't heard anything about him since. My guess is we'll probably see a similar sort of Space Marine wave to this Tyranid wave that we've just seen, where we'll find out some eventual prices outside of Leviathan. Finally, for the non-40k releases, we've got the Forge-World miniatures that are coming out. This rather nice Thousand Sun Sorcerer goes on pre-order on the 16th of December, and the Alpha Legion Saboteur on the 23rd of December, all very sneaky and packing a shotgun and some explosives. Both of these in general were quite well liked by people when they came out. Given their Forge-World resin though, you are going to be paying a higher price, and they're a little bit less nice to work with, at least compared with plastic in my mind. They will probably be a bit more expensive than your average character miniature, often going for around the £27 to £30 mark, or somewhere around the $45 sort of range. Finally, and relevant for guard collectors, is the Tauros Venator. This one used to be a miniature in the Imperial Guard Elysian range, but that long went out of production from Forge World. Kind of cool that that's returning as a plastic kit now, though it's aimed at the Palatine Enforcers on Necromunda. I feel like at least some guard collectors might be tempted to pick one of these up. Really wouldn't be too hard just to do maybe a couple of simple head swaps to the pilots. You could put a couple of different accessories on it if you really wanted to, though I feel like the rest of the vehicle kind of looks the part. Really quite fun to see a classic Forge World kit like this reimagined in plastic, and in a way that maybe isn't too hard to apply to current armies. I think for rules, depending on what weapons you give it, you might be able to use it as, say, a Scout Sentinel perhaps. They scout, they are fairly fast, and they spot targets, so I feel like that would be pretty reasonable on the proxy sort of front. Obviously not quite the same profile, so a bit more of a casual option there. Well, I believe it does have some Legends rules out there. In any case, again, it's fairly standard Games Workshop light vehicle pricing, £35, €45 or $60. Overall, quite a lot of 40k relevant stuff coming out over the next few weeks. Let me know your thoughts on Games Workshop's releases and pricing. Will you be looking to pick up that Kill Team set? And what do you make of the Tyranids releases and prices? Look forward to hearing all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Allspecs Tactics, or I'll certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming. I do tend to post new ones just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Allspecs Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that links in the video description if you'd like to help support and keep these coming. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.